Hello and welcome to CVAT Academy, your go-to training hub for mastering data annotation with CVAT. In this video, we'll learn how to use ellipses to annotate round objects in a practical setting. Let's get started. Let's open the instructions. In this task, our goal is to label all round road signs visible in the images using the ellipse tool. What exactly are we annotating? Only the signs that meet all of the following conditions. First, the shape of the sign must be round. Second, the front side of the sign must be visible. Even if it's partially covered, the main thing is that it remains readable. And third, the sign must be within the visible area and not completely hidden behind other objects. If the sign is partially covered, we still annotate it, based on the part that remains visible. In this case, the ellipse should tightly fit the visible fragment. Here are examples of signs that should be annotated. Speed limit signs, prohibitory and mandatory signs, such as no entry or straight ahead, but only if they're round. Now, here's what should not be annotated. Signs of a different shape, triangular, square, octagonal, and so on. Signs where the front side is not visible. For example, if the sign is turned sideways or we're seeing the back. Do not include the side part of the sign in the annotation. Now let's go over classes and attributes. All such objects should be labeled as road sign. Next, attributes. The first one is speed sign. This is a checkbox that should be checked if the sign indicates a speed limit. If not, leave it unchecked. The second attribute is speed limit. This is a numeric field and we only fill it out if the previous checkbox is active. Enter the number shown on the sign, for example 60. At the end of the instructions, there are examples of correct annotations. Let's close the instructions and begin annotating. Activate the ellipse tool in shape mode. In this frame, there are two round signs and we need to annotate both. Let's start with the upper one. Align the red lines coming from the cursor with the outermost points of the sign, and left-click to place the first point, then place the second point on the opposite side so that the ellipse precisely covers the entire sign. Since we'll need to set attributes, we can open them by clicking this arrow on the Object side panel. Now move on to the next sign. Annotate it the same way as the previous one. This is a speed limit sign, so we'll indicate that in the attributes by activating the checkbox for is speed sign. However, we won't enter the number shown on the sign just yet. We'll do that later. Now move to the next frame. In this frame, there is only one speed limit sign. Annotate it and don't forget to set the flag for his speed sign in the attributes. Next frame. There are three signs here, but only one of them is round, so we only annotate that one. The other two should not be annotated. In this case, due to the perspective in the photo, the sign doesn't look like a perfect circle, but rather an elongated, tilted oval. So we can't immediately outline it precisely with an ellipse. First, we need to center the ellipse relative to the sign. To do this, align the outer points of the ellipse with the edges of the sign. You should use the red guides coming from the cursor. The sign in the photo is tilted, and our ellipse is not yet. So the next step is to determine the angle of tilt and rotate the ellipse. Start rotating it, in this case, clockwise. And watch for the parts of the ellipse that extend beyond the sign to become symmetrical in relation to the sign's edges. Also, make sure the point that adjusts the size of the ellipse is located in the center of the segment that extends beyond the sign. This helps verify that the angle is correct. In this case, we've found the right angle. The point is roughly in the middle of the segment sticking out beyond the sign. After that, adjust the size of the ellipse so it matches the shape of the visible part of the sign as closely as possible. Now everything is ready. The ellipse is properly aligned in position, tilt, and size. Don't forget to set the flag indicating it's a speed sign and move on. In the next frame, there's also only one round sign. Annotate it. Again, due to the perspective, we can't immediately annotate it with an ellipse that perfectly matches the shape. Rotate the ellipse in the direction where the tip of the oval should be, and keep an eye on the ellipse's side edges. Look for the position where the resizing point of the ellipse aligns with the middle of the segment. This angle seems correct. Now adjust the ellipse's size and move on. Continue using this approach to annotation in the remaining frames. We have finished annotating ellipses on all the frames. However, the annotation is not yet complete because we haven't specified the attribute values for the speed signs. Let's do that now. Let's go back to the beginning of the task and apply a filter for the isSpeedSign attribute with the checkbox checked. Now, switch the annotation mode to attribute annotation mode. Switch the attribute to speed limit, which only accepts numeric values. Enter the number displayed on the sign. We don't need to remove the leading 0, it will be automatically removed before the number 3. Use the right arrow key on the keyboard to switch between frames that meet the filter criteria. The default focus will be on the input field for the attribute value, so we can immediately start typing the values without clicking on the field with the left mouse button. Using this approach, we will fill in the values for all the remaining objects. Now let's return to the standard annotation mode. When working with attributes, we need to be careful not to miss anything. If there are values that depend on each other, or if there are mandatory attributes, it's best to double-check them. Let's check if we have indeed marked all the speed signs. I've adjusted the filter to display only objects that haven't been marked as speed sign. Now let's go through the frames and visually check which signs haven't been marked with this flag. In this case, these objects may not appear in every frame, so to skip frames that only contain objects with the speed sign flag, right-click on the frame switching arrow in the player, and choose this option. Now, when we switch frames using the hotkeys D and F, or by clicking them in the player, we will be taken directly to the frame with an object that meets the filter criteria, and the other frames will be skipped. Let's move to the next frame by clicking the arrow in the player. We were moved from frame 0 directly to frame 3. Here, there is a speed sign that hasn't been marked with the corresponding attribute, so let's fix that by adding the necessary values. Now, use the F key to go to the next frame and check the objects on it. Everything looks good here. Let's try to go to the next frame again, but nothing happens. This means we are on the last frame with objects that meet the filter rules. We can double-check this by switching the frame filter back to the standard mode and checking which frames are left. On all of these frames, there are only speed signs. Since no objects appeared here with the filter applied, it's highly likely that these signs have been annotated correctly. That's all. We've completed the annotation of all round road signs and correctly specified the necessary attributes for the speed limit signs. Along the way, we covered how to properly use the ellipse tool, how to handle distorted perspectives, and how to efficiently fill in attributes using filters and annotation modes. Thank you for your attention, and happy annotating!